This is Jason with a Sunday morning edition of End the Simpademic, and I have done a little bit of a deeper dive into a conversation I've had in two of the past three episodes. And that particular conversation is around AI, robot, women that are well underway to reaching the public market. And I've done a little bit more deep diving into this particular subject, and the implications are probably more drastic than even I imagined. And I'm going to throw a little bit extra background that I found out about this as I've gone along here. The main company in the United States that is developing this particular concept is called Realbotics. And it is a company that originally actually had its origins in the sex doll industry. And so I've taken a little bit more of a pivot towards a more general, less R-rated concept. And however, the past of Realbotics is probably going to come to play in its future, because it's pretty difficult to ignore once you get to researching this a little bit more. And they presently are saying that these dolls are not the AI women, robot women that they've presently have in testing and demonstration are not anatomically correct. However, I believe that is only a matter of time. And given their past, I'm pretty sure, once they wanted to make these robot women anatomically correct, I'm pretty sure they're going to do it. And they're pretty much going to be able to do it at record speed. Now, as far as when I think these things are going to come out, judging from what I'm reading and from what I'm seeing from some of their own demos, this is going to happen probably sometime in 2028, 2029, or 2030. And again, as I've mentioned in the previous episodes, the implications for this are massive. And Realbotics has even said that they are doing this to address the male loneliness epidemic. They're using that as a particular reason to market these. Now, right now, the base price for a fully functioning one of these is about $175,000, which is going to be out of the reach of most of your typical single men. And at present, they don't have even the capability to walk. Right now, they kind of float on what would look like a BOSU, if you're familiar with gym equipment. And they kind of float along on that, or roll along on that. They're still self-powered, though. They just can't, walk. And my belief, anyway, just from some of these demos that they've shown at these conventions, is that walking is something that requires a very specific set of muscles, obviously, and they're designed to create equilibrium, balance, and specifically strength. And so but I think they eventually will, like I said, in 2028, 2029, 2030, that particular time horizon, they're probably going to reach that point where they're going to be capable of doing this. And that's also probably the time that I think they're going to be coming out anatomically correct. And I also think that in addition to this, the same technology that was used in the 70s to create test tube babies is probably also going to be somewhat implemented on these. And, you're talking about the ability to stimulate sexual intercourse and at the same time have a artificial womb, if you will, or an artificial uterus, something of that type that would be able to fertilize an egg, just like in the test tubes of the 70s, and be able to gestate and bring that fertilized egg to birth. Now, this is all pretty creepy and pretty disturbing in a way. It's really weird to think about it, but the implications are going to be massive to the dating pool. And I think this should be a warning to all women out there with highly unrealistic expectations, who are gold diggers and who treat men like ATMs and wallets. If these things reach the full capability that I believe that they can, and that their history and Realbotics' history indicates is probably going to be their track. And I will also add that there's also a Chinese company working on this. I don't have the name of it, but I did see a demo of theirs as well. So this is being looked at, and I mean, even Elon Musk has a company that is also in this field right now, in this development stage area. So this is a real piece of irony here, that the man who has posted the most about our declining birth rates is going to ultimately profit off of the further declining birth rate in the United States. And so, I mean, basically where there's money to be made, people are going to do it, regardless of the societal implications. And so therefore, the women right now who are causing men to go MGTOW are going to wind up causing men to buy these things. And you're thinking to yourself, $175,000, what man can afford that? Well, right now, not many. That's basically the price of a house at this point. Or a really bad house, but I mean, still a house. But let's say this, technology with these price points, it does drop over time. Pretty much any technological advance in history has seen this happen. And so at some point, this price point gets down to $30,000. Lonely single men are going to be looking at this as a solution. Men who are incapable of getting a woman, or men who have either been substantially hurt by women, or men who are just black-pilled for whatever reason. And this is a siren call to women that you're going to have to change. Because if this comes to fruition, right now the current studies are saying that in 2030, that 45% of women of childbearing age are going to be single and childless. Well, that 45%, this is a bit of a stretch, but you could probably double that if these AI robot women hit the marketplace on with any mass and are greeted by any sort of a mass market for them. And the fact that these things could come out in about 2030 really lines up with the study. Also, envisioning things in 2030. And you're thinking, well, 2030, that seems like a long way off. Well, no, take a look at the math. That's only five years out. And I think 5 years on the horizon of technology catching up and being viable for these AI robots to be purchased and marketed en masse, 2030 is going to come before you know it. And women who are posting on social media, being gold diggers to try to go viral and get views and be monetized, if they come back and ask in 2030 where are all the good men, well, the good men have bought these things from Realbotics and other similar companies and have had their needs met artificially. Now, as for myself personally, as I've said on this channel before, I'm an evangelical Christian. There's no way I would ever participate in this because I just don't think it's God's design. And extending upon that, I will say that because it's not by God's design, if you believe in Jesus as I do, once this becomes mass marketable and once this becomes a serious thing, if I'm placing bets, which on this one I don't dare do it, but we're in a situation here where that may be when Jesus decides, you know what, enough is enough, it's time for me to come back. And even if you're not a believer in Jesus and the Bible, as I am, you may be looking at this and saying, okay, 2030 is when the asteroid comes back and hits us. Either way, we're toast. And the only way to prevent this from becoming a real thing here is twofold. We need to find ways for men to be satisfied on their own and by themselves, and truly happy on their own. And in my case, my faith is what brings me that. But number two is women need to see this threat for what it is and change. Stop posting these viral videos with your bad behavior, which causes manosphere, faceless manosphere channels like Manhood, The Wall, and such, from being able to AI generate their own content to rage bait men. And this will result in rage baited men purchasing these things, as a viable group at the price point of $30,000, which means that they're going to get their companionship and their physical needs met, or physical desires, I should say, met, for the price of a second car payment. Don't think for a minute that in this environment that a bunch of men will not line up to do it at that price point. This is I think it's an existential threat. And we're going to have, the number of childbearing women who are going to be unmarried and childless in 2030 with this particular development is going to be closer to 90%. It's going to be just a handful of women who might have found a man or a long-term relationship or a marriage before that particular moment of time occurs. That's going to be your 10% that are going to not be in this category. Everyone else, every other woman on the planet, and they're going to look at themselves and be like, how do we get to this point? Well, I'm going to tell you right now in 2025 how that point is going to be reached, and you're not going to like the answer. You played yourselves. You got us to this point by having unreasonable expectations, by harshly rejecting men, by reporting us for sexual harassment when we did nothing wrong, for saying that, it's like, why don't men approach me? And then at the same time also saying, we don't want men to approach you. And that particular element is because the men that you want approaching you are the ones who are the 6 feet tall chads who make 6-figure incomes and have 6-pack abs. 666, the mark of the beast. So this is a warning. Everybody on all fronts is going to have to change. Otherwise, this dystopian reality is going to come along. And my Lord Jesus Christ is going to just decide he's had enough. Or the universe is going to decide that they've had enough, and that big old asteroid is going to come and crash into Earth. Either way, we're dead. And if it does happen to be Jesus, and if I do happen to be correct, I'll be fine with it. I am secure in my own personal salvation. So anyway, this is Jason within the Simpademic with a existential threat warning for your Sunday morning. If you're relaxing at home, I hope I didn't alarm you too much, but I hope I alarmed you enough. This is a very real possibility. We have demonstrations going on across the country right now. Companies like, Realtronics are demonstrating these women robots at conventions around the country today. They are explaining price points today. They're explaining the present limitations of this today, but at the same time, I am not going to doubt their ability to remedy those flaws. And technologically, I think it is going to be viable before, or at least during the year 2030. So anyway, it's Jason and Simpademic. Some serious food for thought here today. And just share in your comments below if you agree or disagree with me. And if there's any nuances, I'd appreciate those too. So anyhow, you folks have a great Sunday. Peace out, homies.